At the tender age of 21, Todd Wiltshire has established himself as a new star on the Speedway scene over the past couple of seasons. This year in England, he raced for the English team Wimbledon. Out of 201 riders in the National League, Wiltshire finished an incredible third, averaging 9.9 points per meeting. He also gained the #1 position for Wimbledon and finished the season in a blaze of glory by winning the Scottish Open in Edinburgh, the Speens Memorial in Glasgow and the Montine Laurels at Wimbledon. There's no prize for guessing that he has benefited from 2 seasons in the old dart.
Well, I've learned everything, I think, just about overseas. I had 2 seasons here at the Newcastle Motordrome, and I learnt as much as I could in Australia, so that's why I had to go overseas to get more experience. And every year I come over there, I learn something. Every time I put my leg over the bike, it's fantastic.
Tomorrow night he resumes a battle with Cessnock's brilliant Chris Watson and the determined former England Speedway star Sean Wilmot, a challenge he's looking forward to.
I'm looking forward to it, you know. I haven't ridden against Chris and Sean for 8 months now, and I've heard a lot about them. They're going very well over here, so you know, I haven't non-stop racing over there so far, and you know, I'm getting a bit tired at Speedway this time of the year. You know, I'm due for a break, but I'm looking forward to racing them, and it'll be a good challenge.
Owner of the ill-fated Tirana, Sam Franoff, was back at the Fishermen's Co-op this morning. Fellow fishermen agree he was lucky, but they say one day soon a life will be lost. Sam's boat lies about 1 kilometre off Zenith Beach under 12 fathoms after it struck a reef at about 1 o'clock this morning. He and his crewman, Miro Malanja, were rescued soon after the vessel went down, but he says the accident needn't have happened if the outer light off Port Stephens had been stronger. Are you angry about this?
Of course I am angry, because I'm still used to old light where you could see it long way. And even the old light, the way it was before, used to show us all the breakers around it. And even shine onto your boat. So even if you don't look at it, you still see the light.
The lighthouse Sam was referring to was shut down earlier this year due to problems with electricity supplies. A weaker beacon was set up on the rock shelf where it remains despite angry protests by fishermen and pleasure craft operators. Since then, 3 vessels have struck rocks off the headland, most in fair weather. The local coastal patrol agrees only luck has avoided a tragedy.
Obviously, it will only be a matter of time before we do lose a life.
What kind of pressure can you bring to bear on the government? Is it just a question of saying, well, this is happening again and again?
I guess it's like all of these things, road fatalities and so on. It happens in time, but we're certainly not as a community going to rest until it is remedied.
Do you think that other vessels are going to be lost?
Oh, there should be some casualties, more and more, I think so, because there's just not enough light for people to get proper position.
Police Association officials toured the state last week gauging support for the deal and say most rank and file seem in favour. There are 11 negotiating points to be thrashed out in the next 6 months until any agreement can be put before the Industrial Commission for ratification. The government will win by having more police available because of fewer holidays, helping its election promise to provide an extra 1,600 officers over 4 years.
We're going to have to sell off part of our annual leave, but it's optional. You can opt to sell off your leave, or you can opt to take your leave as it is. Anything that's optional, I believe, is of benefit to all of us.
And in another radical move, police will be able to volunteer to work on their days off at sports venues and the like and be paid through the department. But there's one provision likely to be a stumbling block.
Some are objecting to having to work set shifts.
Why is that?
Well, they're going to have to negotiate with that and sign an agreement to work a set shift, and we've agreed to do it on principle and see how that goes.
For a trial period?
For a trial period, yeah. If the trial doesn't work, obviously we will have to renegotiate.
The success of the pay scheme depends on enough police agreeing to take it on. Those who like their holidays and days off won't be pleased. But times are tough and mortgage rates are high, and the Police Association believes it's on a winner.
I think overall the Police Association are very happy with the deal. It's the best we can get. We get an automatic 3% pay increase with an incremental scale from 3.4% up to 15% to senior sergeant.
Slot cars, we've all either played with a set or owned one, but of course that was when we were kids. Or was it? At the Big Boy Raceway today there'll be plenty of adults more than happy to prove you wrong.
I think it's a more serious sport than anything.
And it seems there's quite a few things they didn't tell us when we were kids.
You can get into your Womp cars, which are for young kids, you know, and then they're great for young kids. You know, you can buy them straight off the counter, and you can put them on the track and run them.
What makes them a wonk?
A womp is, I don't know what it is, it's just the way they put what they call them.
What's the next one up?
And you're going up again to a flexi car, which are these, right?
They've got something flexible about them.
Yeah, well, the chassis isn't solid, it's movable and flexible.
And what does that do?
Just helps the handling a bit with the bodies, different bodies on them, and they handle a bit different.
But that's still for kids?
Yeah, still for kids, you're getting that. And then you get up into a class where your money is involved, actually.
So these are the adults' cars?
Yeah, these are the adults' cars, like for, say, you and me and your mother and father, see, right? So you're up in a class where you build your own cars, and you can make your own, a lot of people make their own chassis.
So it's definitely not a kid's play thing?
These aren't a kid's play thing, no. These are racing cars.
He's absolutely right. They may not look as realistic, but to the devotee, there's few things as beautiful as a well-finished Group 27. The laser-cut lightweight chassis, the $250 compact engine, the hand-finished gears, and the aerodynamically sculptured plastic body with wings which bend over at speed, holding the car down. All that adds up to a blur of colour on the track and a price tag of around $400, so you wouldn't want a child crashing them, would you? Phil is puzzled. His car should be able to take that corner at around 70. A case like this calls for specialist attention.
What's that doing?
It's actually slowing the car down coming into the corner, and it's helping the inside wheel stick to the track.
It's perfectly legal?
Oh yes, yeah, everyone goes there.
Everyone goes?
Yes.
Unfortunately for Phil, the forces of gravity aren't to prove so easily overcome.
Phil, your goo doesn't seem to be working, mate.
No, it must be something else. I have to have a look at the car, I think.
The goo usually does the trick, does it?
Yeah, that's right. If that amount doesn't fix it, there must be something wrong with the car, I think.
Can you see anything wrong with the car?
No, not really. Might be me driving.
Oh well, some days it's really better to quit while you still have a car. Has Phil convinced you yet this isn't child's play? Maybe the specially printed team T-shirts and hand-painted team cars will do it for you. Or perhaps the strictly enforced regulation parts. Or how about the race wheels in airtight containers in the fridge to keep them in top condition? And these adults have jobs, that rubs off trackside as well. Peter Archer tunes racing cars and repairs video recorders when he's not dreaming up high-tech wizardry to coax a bit more from his speed demons.
By switching the defeat mode on, which is activated at full throttle, basically it shorts out the hand control, which eliminates losses that are built up in the hand control. So it's just basically like a turbo.
Peter is in fact a past road racing champion. Although everything is now in miniature, he says the thrill remains.
You have to have a good knowledge of driving a car quickly on the road to be able to drive on the track quickly, as strange as it may seem.
Peter estimates he's spent about $6,000 on his passion, but he's won state and national titles. He's also the last winner of the Martin Davidson Trophy, one of the most prestigious races on the circuit. Today he defends his title against hot competition from across the state. Peter's confident, however, he's completely rebuilt his Group 27, and once those new bearings bed in, well, he says that 2.8 second lap record should be nervous.
In 1922, Stockton residents rallied together to erect a monument to those who had fallen during World War I. Since the Great War, the honour rolls of other conflicts, including Malaya, Vietnam and Korea, have been added. Recently, the Stockton RSL had the monument cleaned, the soldier repaired, and the concrete step base replaced by Central Coast sandstone. Today, a plaque for those who enlisted from Stockton during World War II and lost their lives was unveiled, 50 years since the war began. Ministers from all religions paid their respects and guided the large crowd through a small ceremony. Long-time Stockton resident and World War I light horseman Norm Bassan led the tribute, laying a wreath and then joining the crowd for the last post.
Police inquiries still centre on the birthday party of a 16-year-old Newcastle high school pupil. It was here that Lee was last seen alive. They've questioned most of the partygoers already, some on many occasions. Now they are re-questioning several key witnesses.
We've narrowed some of the suspects than when we originally started. We had something like 86 suspects, but certainly that's not the figure we're looking at now.
The 20 Stockton detectives have set up a mobile unit to cope with the mounds of paperwork vital to the investigation. Lee's body was found in sand dunes. She had been sexually assaulted more than once and bashed to death. Police are still convinced that Lee's murderer or murderers attended the party here at North Stockton Surf Club. But now they believe there's several other teenagers, possibly gate-crashers, who have still to be questioned by police.
We would like to hear from those kids. Whether they contact us discreetly, all we want to do is speak to them and ask them if they can help us. The people at the party have knowledge of the murder.
And police believe those teenagers could come from as far away as Belmont, since pupils of several high schools knew about the planned party.
We've got a reasonably clear picture of what happened that night. A number of incidents did take place, and we are now in the process of identifying people involved in those matters and their whereabouts after that.
Is it possible for you to comment on the incidents?
Not at this stage, no. It may be crucial to the investigation.
Police still cannot confirm how many people may have been involved in the assaults and murder. Blood samples have been taken from several youths and tested in Sydney. Police say that recent newspaper reports linking the murder with an attempted abduction on the same night were blown out of proportion and have no bearing on their inquiry. Rebecca Skinner for NBN News.
Nat Jeffrey is largely responsible for the birth of Surfest and its continued climb up the success ladder of world events. Today he was enthusiastic about the coming AAA-rated tournament and the swell that is developing.
Yeah, it's looking really good at the moment. I mean, the bank here at Newcastle is probably the best one around town, and it's handling the conditions really well. As long as nothing major happens in terms of big southerly swell in the next week, we're looking good.
The heroes of the waves will hit town next Sunday and Monday, and the likes of Barton Lynch, Potter, Macaulay and Damien Hardman might run into a bit of local resistance in Nicky Wood and Avoca's Mark Sainsbury, who only yesterday won the Forex International at Surfers Paradise.
Well, Nick's been a bit of a quiet horse, or the dark horse this year. You haven't heard a lot about him, but he's been putting in consistent performances all year, and his placings have been quite good, up around 9th placing, you know, most of the year, and he's fighting his way into the top 16. And Mark's been looking for a big result now for a while. I mean, he won the Junior World Championship a few years ago, and he's done it pretty tough ever since. And this is his first Grand Prix win, I think, ever. If not ever, it's certainly been a long while between drinks for him. So this is really good, and it's going to be a big shot in the arm for Mark because he's got the ability, he's just got to get the results in.
For Nat, organising an event such as Surfest isn't that easy.
We certainly have our moments, and I mean, this is one of the biggest sporting events in Newcastle, and we have our headaches. I'd really hate to be putting something like the Australian Grand Prix together.
And as all good tournament organisers should do, try out your product before you put it on the market. For Nat, it's a hell place to have your office.
Mr Blunt freely admits he's on the campaign trail for the next federal election, a trail he's trod faithfully since he took over the National Party leadership last May. His two-day Hunter visit will see him courting business leaders, a reflection of his faith in a business-led economic recovery.
I believe that the package that Andrew Peacock and I announced about a month ago now is a package which will suit Newcastle and the Hunter Valley very well.
Lunch with the Newcastle Chamber of Commerce was an informal affair, with Mr Blunt fielding questions from business people. The sector, the National Party leader says, holds the solution to Australia's economic woes.
The Australian economy is in major difficulties right now. The only sector of that economy that can earn the money to pay off the debt, to address our current account deficit, is in fact the business sector.
Still on the current account deficit, Mr Blunt criticised the New South Wales waterfront, claiming inefficient work practices are costing vital export dollars, a situation the Nationals pledged to turn around.
Here in New South Wales, if you take the coal industry for example, we produce or we export per man some 20 to 40,000 tonnes less coal per annum than the waterfront does in Queensland. Now that I don't think is good news for the Hunter Valley coal mines.
Mr Blunt says the coalition is banking on a likely federal election in February-March. Not one to kiss babies, he says he'll continue to campaign on the issues. Leslie Robinson, NBN News.
There's a small secret control room to the left of this building, but from the outside you can't see it. For security reasons, it isn't allowed to have windows, but it does have bomb-proof walls. Its roof is a 15mm slab of steel. It has double steel bulletproof doors, and its air conditioning vents are tamper-proofed to keep potential intruders out, and its highly sophisticated surveillance system safely locked in. Its brain, a state-of-the-art computer, which is in direct contact with a number of burglar alarms installed in homes or businesses anywhere between the Hawkesbury River down south, Broken Hill in the west and the Queensland border due north. When an alarm goes off, the computer receives a signal within 15 seconds. It prints out all details and staff alerts security guards to check the site in minutes. However, organised robbers can render the surveillance system inactive by breaking into this control centre, which is why the building is built to a Grade 1 security level, the highest as stipulated by the Australian Standards Association.
We're the first one in Newcastle to build to the new Australian standard, yes. So I think that other companies will follow.
This is the Minister's first visit to Singleton Army Base since he took over the Defence Support portfolio in April. The local spouse support group took the opportunity to tell the Minister of the problems associated with defence life. Their major concerns lie with education, childcare and housing. Although the government has allocated money for carpet and heating in local defence homes, the group says there is still a long way to go to ensure adequate levels of accommodation. Mr Simmons acknowledges that housing is a problem, but believes its improvement will stop the exodus of personnel from the service.
We'll be spending $1 billion in providing service people with the sort of houses that they would feel comfortable in living in if they were in normal civilian life. And we believe that that will assist in retaining people in the Australian Defence Force rather than allowing them to look at other alternatives because the housing is just unsatisfactory.
Newcastle Police will introduce a special squad to combat break-ins in the inner city. The scheme has already worked in Hamilton, and police say they're extending the campaign to safeguard more suburbs.
The centre at Tamworth was planned to close in 2 years with the building of a new $10 million security unit at Carry-On on the grounds of Mount Penang Detention Centre. The Minister for Family and Community Services, Virginia Chadwick, said 4 riots this year and the hanging death of an inmate have forced her to prematurely close the institution. Mrs Chadwick describes conditions at Endeavour House as outdated and deplorable. The 7 inmates will be transferred to Minder House in Sydney until the new unit at Mount Penang is built in September 1991.
First stop was Australian poultry, where Senator Cheney enjoyed a bird's-eye view of the Steggles production plant. The visit was organised by Liberal candidate Ashley Saunders, who chose Australian poultry, Alcan aluminium smelter at Curry and advanced energy services near Singleton as a diverse example of local industry. Senator Cheney's visit was also an opportunity to try to swing some votes in the Hunter.
The only way out is to make Australia a more productive country where people work together more efficiently. Now that's what the opposition is about. We're offering a better deal for families in the short term. We're offering a better deal for everybody in the long term.
Police say Newcastle, unlike Sydney, has a steady rate of break-ins. Occasional jumps in the average are put down to the work of gangs concentrating in one area. But Detective Sergeant Ian Brown says Sydney's alarming figures are not reflected here.
No, it's not. We've been concentrating on our areas, and the number of break-enter and steals, in fact, are only running somewhere between 9 to 14 a week, which by all standards is a vastly reduced number on comparison.
Even so, police are trying to cut down on the rate of break-ins. One problem suburb was Hamilton, where police appealed to the public for help to reverse a disturbing crime wave by locking property and reporting suspicious behaviour. They also introduced a special squad to concentrate on break-ins. The system showed results. Now Newcastle Patrol plans a similar tactic. Police will again call on the community to take part in the campaign. They say a large proportion of break-ins are in daylight hours, and the thieves would have been seen.
We'd appreciate any help the public can give us, especially if they see any movements of suspicious nature, just to contact the police. We'll have the task force in operation, and they'll respond immediately if the public can do this for us.